My name is Richard Williamson from Gen 10. We provide data solutions across over 100 different commodity supply chains, incorporating AI. We'll be talking in certain details about the journey that we're all on in this topic. So, introductions. Over to you, Hugh.
Hi, Richard. Hi, everybody. My name is Hugh Brunswick. I'm CEO of Equias. Equias does post-trade processing in the European electricity and gas market. And we use AI in the context of automating that process, or those processes, particularly in the confirmation process. But we also cover the regulatory reporting process for REMA, TMIR, and these sorts of things. We sit on a lot of data, which gives people insights into the functioning of the electricity and gas markets in Europe. And we operate a trade monitoring service, which is a sort of a compliance service that people need in order to comply with the obligations there. But in terms of AI, our main focus is on the automation or the assistance, I suppose, of manual processes to bring them into an automated environment, which is the ultimate aim of the services that we offer. So,
that's great. Thank you, Hugh. Gaurav.
Yeah. Hi, Richard. Hello, everyone. I'm Gaurav from Core. So I'm Senior Director for Product Management, and we provide solutions primarily in the agriculture, metals, mining, energy space, and bulk operation site operations. So coming specifically with respect to AI, we've been on the AI journey for more than a year. And we've taken different use cases. We have solutions for customers, and of course, we've adopted AI internally also. There are different functions and use cases, starting from productivity to analysis, automation, code generation, So different projects are at different stages. Some are at production, some are currently undergoing development, some are in ideation. So it's certainly a journey, exciting, and a lot of opportunities.
Okay, thank you. Manu.
Good morning, everybody, and good morning to my fellow panelists. So, I'm Manuram. I'm heading the risk solutions at ETG. We are a commodity trading organization. We trade predominantly agricultural-based commodities, as well as metals and energy. As part of my function, we implement a lot of risk solutions, and currently we have an in-house technical team who is developing in-house tools for AI as well. And we'll talk about it during our conversation.
Okay, great. Thank you, Manu. So we have a couple of poll questions, if you have your apps out ready, before we get into it. So the question one, do you have an AI strategy in your company? But yeah, good. So it's in progress. I mean, it's still pretty early days for many of us along this journey. So that's pretty much as expected, I would imagine. And yes, still some skeptics in the room, I see. So question number two, whereabouts you are in your AI journey? Is it experimenting, still trying to figure out where it might fit for you? You've got generative. Are you all the way through to employing point solutions? Or in fact, are you already integrating with your workflows and now worried about optimization and cost control? Yeah, well, from the size of the audience, that's quite impressive that we're already integrating the solutions with and playing with some agentic stuff. Great. So at the risk of a little bit of repetition from the introductions, so to the panelists, whereabouts would you say you are in your journey as it relates to the strategy you have for your company?
Yeah, well, I suppose I have to come clean. Most of the work that we've done over the last 20 years is about standardizing the data. So in the back office and in regulatory reporting of trades and order data, the main aim there is actually to simplify, I suppose, if you can perceive the front office and the actions of the market as vibrant and full of colour. The irony is that in the back office and in the post-trade processes world, you really have to take the color out, the variation, and the unpredictability, I suppose, and we've done that. That's one of the first and founding achievements within the European energy market, was that the data for confirmation processes, for instance, was standardized across the entire industry at a very early stage. So back in 2000, 2005, we developed a CPML format similar to the FPML format, so people are aware of that, CPML, Commodity Product Market Language, which describes the trade at an XML level, and that facilitated a whole raft of integrated back office life cycle management processes, to use a lot of jargon words. But that created a situation where the data was just out there in a single format. And then the regulatory reporting obligations came along around 2000, well, after the financial crisis, 2008 to 10, then the 12, and between 2012 and 15. And we really just built the regulatory reporting on top of the confirmation data, which had already, because what you'll find if you look into regulatory reporting is that it's really just the commercial terms of the trade, which are naturally developed, or we naturally developed as an industry in order to facilitate confirmation matching and so forth, with a few other bells and whistles stuck on it. So we ended up with most of the problem of back office life cycle event management to post-trade processing, and therefore regulatory reporting solved, because we were working on a foundation of standardized data, and that was fairly unique, something we managed to achieve because the industry was evolving. However, now AI has come along. After 20 years or more of doing what we do in terms of standardizing and automating, we've never got rid of the paperwork and the manual processes completely from the industry. So there will always be, always, over the last 20, 25 years, we have not seen the end of confirmations through paper. We've not seen the end of invoices through paper. We may do, but in that intervening period, AI has come along, and it's allowed us to support that manual process and bring it further towards an automated or semi-automated basis. So it's used not in matching in the structured world, because it's so structured and
needs to be
defined.
deterministic, and
it's
there's
deterministic, and it's
no
sort
margin
of a
of
done
error
deal.
for that, yeah.
But there's still around the fringes. There's not an insignificant amount of manual work still, and the AI, in our case, a neural network approach, has been applied to incoming email traffic, so that you can assist the remaining and the residual manual processes by observing through the AI models, I suppose, typical behavior of your counterparties over the email channel, which is not immediately apparent to the humans. And with this way of using the metadata around the email traffic of arriving confirmation documents or whatever, you can detect and assist the humans in identifying the highest priority or the highest likelihood of a matching document. So it's a little bit complicated to explain.
But are you happy with the results? Has there been any nervousness about it? I mean, it's helping you sift through an awful lot.
Yeah,
Is there a concern that maybe you still miss out a few things because
speaking to clients, we haven't, because of what I said, we haven't applied AI to the matching processes because we don't see it as relevant, because it's deterministic, it's defined. But we do know that clients have experimented with AI in the matching domain, but they've actually rejected that because they found that it made errors, basically. And obviously, if you're matching...
So did they give up, or are they just looking at seeing if they can...
So they parked it. They said, well, it can't beat. Yeah. You know, applying something which deals with human colour to an environment which has you know, sort of like
science more than art.
A black and white sort of computer arrangement. It doesn't make sense. It actually reduces the accuracy of which has been achieved through standardization.
Yeah.
But it's,
Well, I'm very jealous. I mean, having been in a number of sort of industry initiatives to bring standardization to the data structures, contracts, and quality and weights, etc., that you found yourself in an industry where you could standardize and you've already have your data clean, which we'll get onto the importance of that in a little bit. Manu, you're outside of the vendor space. You're in the build versus buy with ETG. Could you tell us a little bit about where you're at in the journey?
Yeah, sure. So as a commodity trading company, we wanted to divide our strategy into three, right? The AI models. And as Hugh mentioned, the data is the foundation of AI, right? It is difficult to convince people in the non-tech world that AI is not your magic pill for all your problems, right? Suddenly your traders come in one fine day and say, hey, you can do AI and we can simplify it, but we know that's not the case, right? So first thing is dividing AI into three different buckets. What are those? First, making sure you solve the small problems such as automation, document reading, document parsing. We use NLP models for that, Google Vision for that. So we use all these small things to automate the process, be it bill of lading, trade documents, invoice processing into ERP. So that's one strategy, right? This is, I would say, more of a build using the internal team because you have APIs ready for that. Now coming to the second bucket. Second bucket is more of a conversational AI where it gives you commentary on your positions. So we are progressing from dashboard to a conversational chatbot where the traders or the CEOs or the CEOs, they can put in the queries on their running positions. They can get what's my position, what's my P&L today, what is my day P&L, etc. So all your P&L attribution, your positions, where you stand in terms of your forwards, your differentials, all these can be done using your conversational chatbot, right? Now, coming to this, I would say it's partially build and partially buy, all right? Because we could not do it, we are partnering with few vendors to make sure the interface is built by us. A certain level of the conversational chatbot is done by us, but again, we partner with few of the vendors. Now coming to the third one. Here is where you get your predictive analytics, right? And where you also deploy your machine learning, your supply chain optimization. And this is not something which we want to build, right? That's not the business which we are in. So we have partnered with few of the vendors. I found few vendors here who help us with that. So one of them is Ananta Systems. So we partner with few of them to help us build this internally so that, to build it with a vendor so that this can be sorted. So this is divided into three, right? For 2 and 3, data is the foundation. For 1, I just need to train different models for the documents, but 2 and 3, data is the foundation. So literacy is very important to first make a foundational layer and then build this. So that's how we have split the AI strategy into 3.
Okay, that's great. Good 3 points for us to take home with us. And Gaurav, over at Core Echo, which applications have you been playing with, experimenting with, and getting implemented with your client base?
Yeah. So we've been on this journey for over a year now. We've had some wins, we've had some learnings. What we've taken to customers is one is to do with documents, right? So there's a lot of unstructured data, physical documents, invoices, contracts, bill of lading, and all of that, similar to the use case that Ram spoke about, right? So then we are extracting it, doing automation of it, reconciliation of that, which is today very much a manual process, right? So again, we've been very picky on the use cases that we take, right? So this one had the case where there's a lot of volume, or a lot of variety, or you need to do the processing very fast, velocity, the 3 Vs, right? So this helps the customer get the document validated instantly, right? So that's one use case. The other use case is, again, the conversational AI, which makes it's simpler than a BI reporting. Today, when you want to get an aging report, you'll have to have a Power BI or a reporting tool. You'll have to have designers to generate the report for you. Now, just by putting in on a chat, right, that give me the aging report, it gives you instant results. And because this is embedded within the application, it's not a new tool. We don't want the user to learn AI, right? The AI needs to know the system, know the user. So that way it is a part of their integrated workflow itself, and that way it's faster adoption. So those are the use cases that we've been able to take to the market.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Well, thank you, Gaurav. I mean, we got to challenges, lessons learned, where AI is not the right choice. Just to get a little bit of balance into the conversation, because everyone's excited. Manu, maybe you could perhaps start on. You made a very interesting point in our previous conversation about end user buy-in. So maybe there's a little connect you can make between the excitement and then the reality and sort of pushing back.
Yeah. So, see, the difference between AI and any other technological transformation we have seen is everybody, the end users in the trading world, be it traders, be it operational users, be it finance guys, they have used ChatGPT. So their expectation is in lines with that, right? So, and what we, again, I also include myself, my team, and everybody who provides solution. One thing which we need to keep in mind is the solution modeling can be complex, but the solution should be simple. The end user, the simplicity is the key for the end user. However, the how you make the solution, the logic can be complex, but it should not be reflecting on the end user. So to start with, a simple user interface, right? That's where change management comes into picture, the traditional concept of change management. From what we understood, the end user doesn't want to see multiple different screens. If they're using a particular ERP, in our case, if you're using a Microsoft ERP, they just want to see the same UI and everything. So that's one thing. So whenever you develop a solution, basis AI, so I'm talking about peripheral applications, the change management, the end user field should be the same, one. Two, you don't put so many data on that AI dashboard, on whatever peripheral applications we do. For example, we build something called as CORA. It is an in-house thing. It's called as Commodity Risk Assistant. And that's the second one which I told you, the second module of the conversational chatbot, right? We did most of it, we partnered with the vendor to get it built. So CORA sits on the intersection of ERP, CTRM, and also a few of our consolidation systems, right? So it is very important to, the challenge is it's easy to train them because it's a conversational chatbot. However, it's very important to make sure you interface, you have the data foundation layer and interface it with the right applications. And most importantly, the change management. That's what is very important. And you also have to set your expectation right on what you can expect from this, right? Again, as I said, ChatGPT, you can't expect everything come from day one because the model needs a feedback mechanism. It needs to be trained. The data needs to be validated. So set your expectations right. Start with small wins. Small wins have a huge impact. That's what I would suggest. Because to build a customer or your user trust, you need to build a small win and then go on to the large projects.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, I would just like to add, so where we don't want to use AI primarily is like there are three criterias, right? First, if the use case is such where it's rule-based, it's deterministic, don't use AI. Use AI to develop the code and build the code and deploy it, right? Second, if it is to do with, at least as the state right now is, with respect to numbers, calculations, and all of that, it isn't that great, right? With language, yes, it's great, but with number crunching and all that, it isn't that great. High chances of hallucination, and where we have customers fighting for the second decimal of a dollar or a cent, right? We don't want to put this in play. And the third one is just purely from an engineering perspective. AI engineering is very different from application engineering, right? DevOps is very different from MLOps, and they have their own life cycle. So you need a specific set of team. If you have that team, then you should really kind of look at very critical, mission critical use cases and then go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, just quickly back to mine, because it was an interesting point where you had the buy-in and the excitement. And do you get like a lot of requests, get it to do this, get it to do that, where you say, well, hold on a second, you kind of already have that. Do you need to spend the money on AI to solve that problem? What's the experience?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So the interesting thing is they want everything, but we are tight on budgets, right? That's how all the commodity trading companies are. So now, one such example is one of our trader from coffee. He wanted AI tool to have all the different kind of document templates printed, right? I'll just give you 2 use cases. He said that our document templates, be it trade, contract confirmations, we need to defer it basis customers, so why don't we use AI? However, this is available in CTRM, right? If you configure CTRM application as rule-based, and similar to what Gaurav said, you can certainly do that. You don't require any AI for that. So what they actually wanted was we had to onboard them to one of the CTRM, start using their business rather than using AI, right? Or configure the CTRM, talk to the vendor and make sure you create enough templates so that happens. So you don't need for such things. Second thing is, another request which came up is, different contracts have different checklists and regulations, right? When you get a contract which is from Vietnam, or when you're procuring something from Ghana, you have different regulations, which includes a trade regulation, there's a trade checklist. So currently that is being done manually. I'm giving you a real life use case, right? Currently that is being done manually by the traders, and all of you should make sure, otherwise you are at the risk of not obliging to the contract, right? So there we thought it is a very simple use case. So we put certain rules. We read the emails from from the traders or the common mailbox. We ran it through these rules and made sure a different checklist was created, and the trader was validated before sending the contract document. The contract document also was shared over there, and we validated that all these had been done. Though it is rule-based in this case, but it also, one of the things is it pulls out the data directly and gives you a checklist before you send out a contract document. It gets validated.
It's not doing it all for you, but it's helping.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Right. So you really cannot say that AI will replace human judgment right now, right? It is to make sure it accelerates or enables a better decision making right now. So I guess that's the stage of AI where we are in, and that's how it is.
Yeah. And to the point of without the data, AI is pretty much hamstrung, right? And the company is hamstrung. I mean, if you're using your chatbot, and it's getting a lot better with numbers, I would say. You know, I mean, it's writing code for people, right? You know, if you're asking your chatbot, what's my open mark to market, what's my M2M for my open book? You know, going to look back at your SQL database, you know, that AI has no idea what open M2M / P&L means, right? You need that sort of semantic layer. It needs to define, it needs to understand what that data is. Now to yourself, Hugh, you have the luxury of very clean data sets. Have you, and you mentioned about some of the experiments you're doing on the email front, but have you considered, you know, this semantic layer, as they call it, the definition of each of these data points, so that a chatbot can do the maths, basically?
Yeah, I mean, that's my point, really. I suppose the way we understand it anyway at this stage is that AI is better at perceiving patterns that are not immediately apparent to normal computers or humans. In our situation, the patterns are bleeding obvious, if you like, to use a phrase, because the data has been put in a state where you can just identify that one side matches the other. So there is no mystery, really, to solve. And I think that's essentially where humans rely, or would rely, or where AI can help humans. You know, our situation is spotting patterns that are not immediately apparent to the human operator. And in our case, it's a fairly narrow example, but in our case, it's actually spotting patterns in the way that counterparties tend to respond to an email which is sent to them. So the response comes back, and the question is whether, what should I do with this email? And what every counterparty does is have sort of a fingerprint or a profile in the way that they behave. And that behavior is actually captured within the email metadata. So things like the time of day that they do things, the space of time between the issue and the response, whether they do certain other sort of aspects. And down to the microsecond, really, all that is captured in the email process. But it's not data which is easily accessible to human interpretation. So people do have effectively behavioral fingerprints which can be observed through the metadata of an email response, which AI can identify, and it can vary as well, obviously, because it's a continual process of refinement, so it continues to learn. So it can treat every counterparty as an individual, and it can vary the profile of each counterparty as their behavior changes. So it can adapt, and it can be very precise in the way that it understands the behavior of the counterparty. And that's a sort of a chaotic, it's not really a chaotic situation, but it's a complex situation with an underlying defined data set, which is the metadata around the email. And that is something that humans can't really spot. They can understand that so-and-so tends to do this at this time of day, but they can't really get beyond that, whereas because the metadata is there, the AI can get beyond that. It can spot those patterns, which are only the surface of which are apparent to humans. And so that's really where we, to take Manu and Manu's point, which is we're really at the stage where, in our view, humans are in charge of the task, if it's another human, which is muddying the waters, and AI can intervene in order to assist in the prioritization or the interpretation of the other counterparty's human behavior. If you take the human out of the process, which I was talking about earlier, which we have done and normalize all the data, then there's not really any space for any mystery. There's no patterns that need to be spotted. There's no complex problem which is not immediately perceivable, because the work has been put in to avoid it in the first place.
Yeah. That's why it's really interesting to get a cross section. We've got a bit of a spectrum here. Not everybody is in the same state of luxury that you are, where you have your data clean, and so we're not looking for ways of using this new technology. I mean, okay, maybe experimentation, but you don't need to as much as, because you have that data already nicely organized. And I guess you have a sort of there's a particular scope. You're not getting involved in the whole supply chain, and there's so much gray areas and exceptions in other physically shipped goods, etc. So you don't need to address those kind of problems. But it's a great example where you've got the data, and so you're looking for ways to augment things. But
I mean, in our view, to some extent, AI sort of perpetuates the use of manual processes because it allows people to carry on using them. Which is the irony of the situation, because 95% of what we deal with is all fully standardized and automated, and it's the 5% or 10 or 5 or 10% which remains in this sort of manual status, and AI is sort of a sticky plaster to some extent put over that, so that the last 10% never has to be automated. So I have mixed feelings in actual fact, because there are benefits in standardizing 100%, because then you do have a full trade life cycle. Nothing is impossible because everything is within view. And so I have a slight sort of, I see there's some questions here about, do you really have faith in AI, essentially? My view is that...
You don't need to have faith if you got your data set in your particular realm, right?
Yeah, but even the use of AI sort of could, if the utopian endpoint is to have a situation which we've largely achieved in Europe, where everything is normalized and standardized and available, then AI sort of is disincentivizing people, I suppose, from doing that final yard to... but we're all human, and that final yard will probably always be there.
Yeah, yeah, and then it gets to sort of so if you got the data, you have the semantic layer, you can have your chatbot asking questions, you know that around prompt engineering, and because I'm trying to segue from the user interaction to the governance issues that then come from it. So being able to ask your chatbot, you know, how many invoices are due for payment this week. You know, the chatbot can do that. It's like, but then should the user be asking it questions like that? Because there's a compute power to these sorts of prompts, and then it's like, well, if you leave it as a chatbot where you're free to ask whatever questions you like of all of that database, like, you know, show me a summary of a particular clause across my last 10,000 contracts. They could easily do that. So what are we doing? Gaurav, Manu, who'd like to first take up on that about how you're trying to get the guardrails in, how you train the users on prompt engineering, how you get them to interact, and what sort of governance issues that you may have come across in your journey? Gaurav?
Okay. Yeah. So we have an advantage here because we are a vendor, so we have the system, the core application itself, which does the commodity trade lifecycle management, right? So now when we are bringing an AI application onto it, what we are ensuring is that we are not starting from scratch on certain very basic principles, fundamentals, like security, right? So the role-based access control, which is already there in the application for the modules, they are inherited automatically by the AI solution that we're using. In terms of performance, right? So if you're asking questions of contracts of the last 10,000 contracts, invoices, so there are performance guardrails that are there, right? As part of the prompt engineering itself, we are ensuring that the questions that you're asking is relevant to the data in the system. You're not asking, you know, non-system related questions. Then there is synonym mapping that is done to ensure that the users are asking questions which are related to the modules that they have access to, right? So there are various guardrails that are put in, both from an architecture perspective, from a system perspective, from a design perspective, performance perspective, to ensure that the tool is enabling the user to get quicker answers, but which are accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, if training them, if you say, show me my how many tons I've got going on across all of my contracts, and you're asking that chatbot, you know, how does it not, you know, if the user hasn't said exclude all of my draft contracts, exclude my cancelled contracts, or ones that are up for amendment or whatever, you know, it's trying to get the segue now to agentic AI and integrated solutions. Manu, is there anything you could share on that in terms of, you know, do you design an agent where they select from a list the main questions, like what's my position and stuff? So you're trying to get them, once you've given them a conversational chatbot, you're then trying to take them away from a conversational chatbot and try to put some structure, some guardrails.
Yeah. So again, coming back to our initial conversation, we don't need AI for everything, right? Certain things which can be solved by a daily report in terms of my positions, we would still recommend the users to go through the entire report, right? Because you have a report schedule for it. Right now, the conversational chatbot, as you rightly said, still maybe a person at the group level or at a CEO of the group level, they may not prefer to go through all these reports of different verticals. So they would use this conversational chatbot and would like to see, right? Maybe for the monthly call or monthly review calls. So over there, that's where we have human in the loop, right? So we have to keep training models, and it is, what you said is very true. And what if the draft contracts are included? We had a CTRM system earlier, which would go into draft status once you amend the contract, right? And what if the AI model didn't know that it is actually not an actual draft contract, but something which has gone into draft because it's pending a confirmation? I'm just giving a simple use case, right? And we exactly had this problem that because of that, all those positions got omitted out of it. So we said, okay, don't take draft contracts. Now even it got omitted, these things also got omitted from this. So
did you train the model to ignore certain things, or did you give
Yeah.
them structured,
No, so it's
pre-engineered prompts?
yeah, it's basically we have to keep training the models on that, right? And again, that's what I said, human in the loop, and we make sure that if the results are accurate, we compare it with our actual results. So it takes time, it takes process to do it. And even now, though we say, so few things are safe prompts to use, right? Again, still we are in the adoption stage. We have not gone into a stage where we can completely trust it. I'm sure it's same with any AIs, right? There are AI hallucination, which happens. For certain prompts, we can say it is still safe to use, and that we sorted by human in the loop, a lot of trial and error, and keeping on training the model regularly. However, what it also means is you will have to bear a lot of infra cost, right? Because there's a lot of tokens which goes in and out. So that is also something you have to be mindful of it, and whom do you give access to, right? Just because I've created a conversational chatbot, I don't want everybody to use it, at least for now, right? So I want to limit the access to certain people so that I use my tokens wisely and my infra cost does not kick up too much for that. So that's also quite important.
Yeah, good. And then, so, I mean, there's the training the model to ignore it, and that starts getting back to sort of machine learning and going back behind the scenes to sort things out. But it gets to sort of, are there any examples where you've incorporated some agentic solutions where the prompts are already pre-engineered, so you don't have to worry about whether they've include or remember to exclude this or include that or whatever, where it becomes part of your integral, your day-to-day workflow, so that it's actually doing things for you rather than just allowing you to talk to it and get responses. If there's anybody on
Sure.
the agentic side.
Yeah, on the agentic side. So first taking the conversational case itself, right? So when we say open contracts for a trader is different from an operations or logistic user. Now that's where the agentic approach comes in, because we have understood what the user role profile is, right? So when you're looking up for open contracts, you're looking at, in the contract table. But if it's coming from a logistic operator, you're talking about contracts which are not yet planned for shipment, right? Now that's where agentic helps, because that is now taking the role of the user and talking as the user, right? So that's where, in the conversational AI space. In terms of talking about workflows itself, agentic helps in when you have multiple workflows, like let's say a contract has come in, you need to break down the contract. Very simple case, even if the contract is just a PDF or it is a image, right? Over there also you can use, because you don't want to kind of, coming to the token costs, right? You don't want to just unnecessarily process a large amount of data. And if the document is a 50-page document, but you need data just from page number 5, again, it's unnecessary to kind of extract data from all the 50 pages. So again, that's where agentic AI, which very, very specific agents having specific roles, job to do, task to do, they help out in optimizing and getting better accuracy.
Yeah, okay, great. Hugh.
Yeah, I mean, I've been speaking about what we've done and what is going on right now, but what I haven't spoken about is what we are planning or thinking about doing. So when you talk about agentic AI, we sit on a lot of market data. We have a lot of information. We collect all the trades and orders from all of the OTC brokers and most of the bilateral market data. So we have sort of a very comprehensive data set, probably unique in the market in terms of its scope and depth. And that's something which can really drive trading and give transparency and provide insights to traders to be able to attack more illiquid markets where there are fatter spreads and more interesting profits to be made. And it's in that space where we would be looking to deploy more agentic AI type mechanisms to provide sort of market commentary effectively. So they're actually observing trends and changes which are inherent within the data, sort of which products, which terms are being traded in which markets, by how many people, what time of day is it most liquid, when are the spreads widest, and so on and so forth, what that means. And that could be connected to other sort of external sort of like fundamental events in order to give deeper insights into the way that the market can be traded. So that is more aspirational because we haven't done it. But so
you have to try
Yeah.
and find out, right?
Well, yeah, I didn't
not
want
be
to-
scared, but just remember that later on you're going to have to start talking about
Yeah, I mean-
optimization and cost control, which would then get us to sort of. And I'm just thinking in the interest of time, get some questions here as well. But I feel that we're talking about the art of applying AI across the trading functions, the art of governance. The black box, the auditability, the accountability, the responsibility, the legal, the ethical responsibilities that we have, and then just squeeze in for the time on how are you trying to optimize things so that maybe we can squeeze that one in. But on the governance side of things, what are you putting in place, Manu, to make sure that there is no black box and that the auditors are happy?
Yeah. So the first thing is we need to have the guardrails in place, right? Cybersecurity, as we use more of AI, it's more, we can see a lot of increased instances where cybersecurity is being more and more important day by day, right? I read an article where now it just takes, earlier it used to take 2 to 3 days to build a malware. Now it just takes 15 minutes to build a malware, right? So it's very important to have the proper guardrails in place, right? One. Second is on the rules and how the data is being stored, right? Because there's a lot of confidential information. For example, when I spoke about the consolidation system, it has information about all my verticals, all my profit centers. It has my PAT, it has my PBT, PAT, it has everything, right? And I need to make sure that when somebody else accesses that conversational chatbot, not everybody should get access to it, A. B, I need to, again, on the data regulations and audit side, it kind of helps me, I would say, because I would have everything in a system and I would have everything in a structured manner. So currently, most of the problem which we face as a trading company during audit is they come and ask us, what are the systems in place? If you manage something in Excel, then it's a red flag in an audit, right? So the more systems you use in place, the more the things, invoices, contracts, all the vendor cost gets issued from the system, it's better. And there should also be a three-way matching, right? So while, again, as I said, in order to develop AI, I rather see it as a complementary thing. Because I need a data harmonization, a data standardization, it would increase me to use systems, right? And a structured data. So I would say it would rather help me in terms of my audit because this would also act as a byproduct. And second thing is we need to have the right guardrails in place. And otherwise, being the compliance of be it EUDR compliance and all the regulatory compliance, that's something parallel, which any which ways we have to have it on track. Right?
Yeah. But I mean, there is that sort of black box thing of you ask it a question, it comes back with the number 42, and it's like, okay. And then people are making decisions on that. I mean, just say a little bit about where we're at. Where you need to log the queries and log the responses and open up that black box and make sure that even the communication, the interactions that you have, that you can go back and say, well, okay, the answer was 42, and here's when they asked it, and here was the calculation that they used, and that's stored as well. Otherwise, that black box thing becomes scary, which I guess sort of there was something where, we've got a new more popular one, to sort of like that AI fatigue and failure in exercise. I mean, I encourage you not to give up because there is such a lot of exciting potential from it, but there is an art in how you implement these solutions and what you're trying to achieve. Push the envelope, but like you were saying, get some easy wins in, build confidence. But there are some horror stories out there about, okay, well, we tried AI, and my AWS bill shot through the roof by 100x or whatever. And it's like, so, we're going to go out and buy an H200 and stick it in my office, right, to save some money. But, how that particular AI solution was designed. You know, are they going through all of the contracts, all of the invoices, all of the time whenever they're asking one simple question? Are they asking questions too many times? Are they not caching the answers so the next person someone asks, they can look at the cached response as opposed to more compute power and spending more tokens and stuff like that? Is there anything the panelists would like to share in terms of cost management and in terms of making sure that these implementations don't run away with themselves and become another horror story in the press?
So, Richard, one point is very rightly said. When AI gives out an answer, I'll start with a basic thing. You need to ask it how it's being computed, right? That's how we validate it. Now, coming to the horror stories, see, I would suggest we go with the first principle. Start with the basics, right? What does the customer want? Instead of we implementing AI because it's a buzzword, we have to catch up with industry trend. Let's go with the first principles. What exactly does the operations team want? What does the logistics team want? What does the trader wants? And start implementing from that, right? And on the cost part, one of the McKinsey study, I'm sure most of you would have read it, which says more than 80% of the AI projects failed, right? What's the reason behind it? It's not because AI or technology is not keeping up with it, because functionally when you deployed it, whether did we solve the right use case or not, that's the question. So always make sure that only deploy what is actually needed rather than telling AI has this capability, so I'm going to give it to you. Right, so I guess that's quite important, and only take up projects which really where you see wins and small wins to start with. It's like a iterative process, and yeah, it's called a spiral model. Yeah.
Specifically for the cost part that you were asking about, so there are multiple things. To start with, the way the costing itself is done has changed. Previously, if you're looking at just generic solutions, it used to be by tokens. Now, if you're going to go with the document one, it's per page, right? So the way the industry is also evolving from a cost perspective, right, on the pricing perspective. So that is something that we have to evolve and kind of keep working on. In terms of, there is a lot of optimization that is possible, but that's what all that comes in as part of the design development stage itself. It cannot be that, oh, we have the product ready, now let's price it and cost it. No, from day one itself, all of this needs to be considered. And then, of course, because you have multiple solutions, and it's not just LLMs that are there. You have SLMs also that are available. There are local LLMs that are available, deployable. So depending on the use case, you have to see. It's not one size fits all. That's a standard. But then there's also that the size that you have right now will not fit 3 months down the line because the landscape is just evolving so fast.
Yeah, and there's so many things that we could talk about in the interest of time, but we got, which LLM do you incorporate for what type of question, and getting those agents to choose the cheaper haiku versus, don't drive the Ferrari to the supermarket every day, use the Mini, whatever it is. But if we look at a couple of these questions here from the audience, so given complexity, domain-specific nature of CTRM, many processes still rely heavily on human validation. How do you assess where it's truly adding intelligence and decision support rather than, I guess, that sort of, like that? I mean, I still think using chatbots and that sort of human interface it is expected by the users, and it does help. But
I'll take the first question. It's very interesting and very practical question, right? We only talk about documents, chatbots, and how it is adding actual value. So we are doing something called as a supply chain optimization and origin-based optimization for one of our cocoa business. So we need data from CTRM because once you capture data from CTRM, you capture different origins from where you want to procure the commodity, right? And you also have a sell contract. It's not that we always book a sell after we buy. So we go out to the market. We know the industry trend, how much of a yield we are going to get during this crop season. And then we go out to the market and we book sell contracts because we have our regular customers like Mondelez, Nestle, and everything. So we start booking. So the thing is, there's something called as optionality. So we make sure that the purchase side optionality and the sales side optionality, we started matching that with the help of AI to make sure which contract, if you link with which one, you can get the maximum profit. So that's one of the use cases which we are using, going beyond chatbots and automation. We are using the supply chain optimization, using optionality, using one of the AI models. It's still in progress, but which means that still the trader needs to take a call on that. But I'm sure few of the other commodity trading companies should also be trying this to get a better profit P&L yield between the purchase leg and the sales leg for the open positions.
Yeah. Just on the same lines. So for this question, and it's an interesting one. So the interesting use case will not be found by AI. It will require human intelligence to find that interesting use case. And just like how we have something called the Q index, which is the sentiment index that we've been publishing for 6 months now. This was something that previously wasn't possible, but now we are able to kind of look at news data, look at sentiment, and predict, get the sentiment index out, right? So there, it will require folks in your team across different departments, right, to kind of really see where you do see a fitment for that and then apply AI to it. AI will not just automatically solve it. Yeah.
And if you're trying to ask it to predict what cotton December futures are going to be, you can still, it's kind of like Formula One, where it's like a series of incremental gains is already very good operationally. If you're integrating some little agent when you're applying your purchases to your sales, being able to access the unstructured data from your contract clauses alongside, is it the right quality and some of that deterministic stuff that a good CTRM would give you, it just adds that little bit more. Now, you can't get there unless you have the data in place, and the more clearly defined you can make that semantic layer, giving AI a chance to run its magic. These are still important things because they all add up to cost efficiency. So yeah, it is a buzzword and it shouldn't be overused, but we shouldn't give up on it, right? Is there anything on, on the confidentiality, just honoring the audience questions, the confidentiality, are we teaching LLMs? I think it's a quick answer. Anything on security, confidentiality?
Yeah, we have a internal AI policy. Obviously, we sit on a lot of very confidential data and information. We can't just put that into the open domain. So obviously, even with our own internal AI experiments, we're working with a closed sort of environment. We don't allow the data to be leaked into the general sort of AI universe or to ChatGPT or whoever else it is. So we have a policy where we would only use closed environments.
And these policies are so important. If you experiment, try some things out, make some failures, but have your strategy in place so that these policy issues are addressed. That we're looking at we're addressing the governance, and who's responsible if somebody acts on something that a chatbot has replied to. If you're not keeping a record of those types of things, I guess we have a few scars to create. I guess we'll have a few bumps on the head along the way. But is there anything, Manu? So getting to something like ROI, getting something where you're managing the cost, you can see how much the cost of compute, you're managing your tokens well, you're optimizing things, you have your guardrails in place. Do you have anything where you've gone back to the boss and said, we made this much from our AI investment?
Yeah, with AI models, it is, from what I have understood, it is being more OPEX incentive, OPEX heavy rather than CAPEX heavy, right? So it is CAPEX heavy, but the OPEX is also going to be heavy because once you build a model, the infra cost to maintain it it's going to significantly increase, right? You have to, we built something on Llama, right? Because we don't want to use any of the OpenAI models and because of the data as well. We want to keep it in our closed environment, right? And how much does it cost for you to maintain those GPUs, buy those GPUs from AWS, right? So it is being OPEX intense, right? That is something which we want to keep it low. Again, coming back to the tokens, which we spoke before and which Gaurav also highlighted. That is something which we want to keep low. And how do you measure the ROI? Again, as we said, we are still making sure the access to all these is not org-wide, right? We are still a private company, and we don't want our data, coming to the regulations part, we don't want our data to be viewed or uploaded into any of the public platforms, whatever.
But, I mean, it's easy to keep your data confidential without training these models, right?
Right,
So,
right.
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah.
Just need to remember.
Yeah, just need to remember. So, yeah, so the ROI is purely defined on how many, for example, if it's a finance controller, how many back office people am I currently reducing right now? That is the stage at which we are in, right? And again, the supply chain optimization is still something which is a work in progress. But right now, the ROI is limited to how many headcounts is what I can optimize, or I don't have to increase, having the same model over here, right? So that's how we measure the ROI, and majorly with the OPEX cost more than the CAPEX.
Yeah. And I guess depending on where your company is, if you're in a moment of growth, then you're being more productive as opposed to culling.
Right.
And gosh, there's so much to talk about corporate memory, about how do the new people come in if we don't need any new people, and all of that. We can't possibly get through it all. I think that some of the perhaps older questions we may have covered. I think, do you think, are they racing to implement AI without sorting out the underlying data first? It's so crucial. I mean, I think that's one of the, well, before I'll maybe circle back on that for the close. AI quality control, garbage in, very convincing garbage out. Yeah, it's very seductive and it sounds great, and it's only 3 days later you say, hold on a second, that didn't say. It just patted me on the back and made me feel good and gave me some sort of validation without, and I didn't question it. But I think if there's a 5 years' time, like quick one, 5 years' time, will AI still be helping us improve and make efficiency just like technology has always promised, or will it be transformative? Will we be trading or operating completely differently in 5 years' time? You?
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Richard.
Manu? Where will we be in 5 years' time?
Well,
Let's make it easier.
I would say that I couldn't predict what would happen with social media in the internet revolution back in 2000, when many people in the room weren't even born. But I lived through that. I couldn't have predicted what would have happened. All I knew was that Amazon was selling books on the internet, and that seemed revolutionary at the time. So I'm sort of in that stage myself. I'm sure it will be transformative, but if I knew how, I probably wouldn't tell everybody in the room. I'd go off and do it myself.
Yeah, you don't get rich from bragging rights, do you? But Gaurav?
Yeah, certainly it is going to change the way we work, the way we operate. It does, right? It is a transformative technology. I mean, just like what happened with internet, right? That kind of made a flat world, right? This is going to make a faster world for sure. That's certainly the case. But there will always kind of be checks and balances that will have to be thought about, the use cases that will have to be thought about, the ROI, and that's why it's still an art as of now. But 5 years down the line, it's going to become a standard. 8 years back, right, cloud was like a thing, and we had to go to customers and say, take cloud, take cloud. Now customers came back and said, if you don't have a cloud, don't even answer the RFP, right? This is what is going to be the state with AI also, and 5 years is too long. I think just this year I've seen RFPs with AI is already being mentioned. So it's certainly a thing that, it's in our lives for sure.
Yeah, I would like to refer to the Gartner's hype cycle, where right now AI is in the throes of disillusionment, right? So because people had hybrid so much, right? And I'm sure we'll stabilize it. So 5 years from now, again, my personal opinion, it'll be an enabler rather than a disruptor. AI is going to be an enabler. When it comes to paper trades, I would not for the trading industry. When it comes to paper trade, there'll be a lot of algorithmic trading, much more intelligent models which will trade. But for physical trade, I still feel physical traders and their personal relationship still matters. Because from what we are seeing, and that's how you win customers and the trust and everything, right? So for physical trade, it'll be more of an enabler for the supply chain. But physical trade, I believe it will be more of an enabler rather than a complete transformation is what I believe.
Which is still a good result, right? And in a way of sort of trying to wrap up for the coffee break, I think. I guess that's why the topic was the art of AI. I hope you've taken away some tangible, practical applications, and that it is a journey. But it is an art in terms of how we apply it, how we implement it can affect success or failure. Even if it's not predicting the future, it can still help a lot in the optimization of your company. And it's about reducing costs and making more profit at the end of the day. And I guess the underlying thing, if I may, is the importance, and this is to address the questions at the bottom, the importance of having your data organized. If you won't be able to enjoy the benefits, the promises, the tangible benefits of AI if you've not got your data sorted. So if you haven't, remember that it's a lot easier to migrate to new systems these days, especially with the AI tools available to us. So on that note, thank you very much for your inputs and sharing your experiences.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you all.